Hello, everyone. I am Nimda.EXE. I am back again with another tutorial at the request of another client. Today's tutorial is going to be about taking what is essentially a VRChat avatar and turning it into a avatar that is suitable for use in a program like VRChat, for example. But more appropriately, this is to teach you how to take a VRChat avatar and upload it and repurpose it for use in VTubing, should you so choose to do so. Now, one of the first things we need to do in order to make this work is we need a FBX file. I have tried this multiple times with a regular VRM model. It doesn't necessarily work well. It will work with something like a Vroid model, but I've found that it is still better to save as FBX and then once you get it in Unity, you export as VRM again, as it fixes a lot of the problems that come with VRMs being exported out of Blender and into Unity. Now, you might ask, why ever would we even need to be in Blender if we already have a Vroid model? You really wouldn't. This is more focused around if you have an FBX and you are then taking it and putting it into Unity. You need a couple things in order for Unity to set up your model to be used for VTubing purposes. And those things are very specific blend shapes on your avatar. They are all in the face area. So you don't have to worry too much about the rest of the body, but I am getting off track here. Let's get into this. And we are going to start first with making sure our FBX is actually functioning. The reason I ended up with this model and working on it for the client is the original Blender program or a Blender version of this file, excuse me, that they received had all of the bones mirrored. So what does that mean practically? So for instance, the ears right here, how when I move them, just the right side moves. And the same is for stuff like also the shoulders. For some reason, that their version of the Blender file had everything mirrored. So if I moved the left side, the right side would move. And that's no bueno. I don't know why or how that happened. I don't know if the client was messing around and that happened, or if that was by design of the original creator. Neither here nor there. The point of the matter is you cannot have that if you want it to work for VTubing. Also, excuse my avatar. This is a new one that I've been experimenting with and working on. So some things aren't working. It's not at all done yet. I'm more stress testing it right now for this. You might notice that behind me, my tail isn't doing anything. It's not wagging or moving. And there's other parts of the avatar that are a little wonky. This is a stress test before I finish her. Beyond that, let's begin with the face. For this avatar, everything is combined into one mesh, the body. But if you look over here, you will see there are two different material sets. There is a head and a body. The head has all of the shapes we're going to need to work with. So we're going to go over here to the data, which is this little area right here. And what we are most interested in right now is the shape keys. These right here are what we're going to need to set our avatar up to work. Now, from what I'm seeing, it does look like most of this was set up, but it does look like it's missing a couple things, or a couple things need to be renamed to specifically work with Unity and the VRM format. That is one of the biggest things you'll run into with VRChat models, is they're named very differently because the names don't really matter. Whereas with the VRM format in Unity, your names absolutely matter. You need to have them very specific, or you're going to have problems. All right, so one of the first things we need are very specific emotions that have to be set in the shape keys: joy, happy, sorrow, anger. Those have to be in the face. And one of the first things you'll notice is we do have an anger, we have a sad, but it does not look like, oh, there's a happy blink, but I don't see just a happy. So there's a couple ways we can do this. We can build the happy shape key, which is probably what we're going to do. We're going to build it using these shape keys that are already present, and we will go from there. So you can do this by actually editing the facial mesh. Like in this case, I can swap over here into edit, and we can actually edit this mesh accordingly. Now, in a mesh like this, where everything's already combined together, you would probably want to kind of start separating some things, like at least the head from the rest of the body. I've already done tutorials on how to do this, how to separate meshes apart and how to combine them back together. For this tutorial, we're not going to touch base on that. I am instead going to show you how to custom make these shapes out of shape keys already provided by the model, because most model makers, especially if you're just pulling something from VRChat that you really like or think would make an interesting character for a basis, especially if you're just getting started out, most model creators provide plenty enough shape keys on the face for this model or their models to be used for things other than VRChat. And this model does indeed have more than enough. So I'm going to show you how to do that just from the already available shape keys. If you are interested in seeing how to custom make all the facial shape keys, including like the ones for the AR kit, which is the 52 blend shapes for the AR kit, I can actually show you how to do that in a different tutorial. Just let me know in the comments if you're interested in something like that. But we are going to start with happy. So we're going to scroll down through here. And as you can see, there's a couple things like the happy blink. There's also smug. And there's a grin, which is probably going to work best for our uses of happy. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the grin, I'm going to turn that all the way up to 1, and the happy blink, turn that all the way up to 1. So as you can see, we have both of these active now. They're at 1. And if we go right here to the drop-down menu, we can click on, oops, I clicked off of it. So from the little arrow drop-down, we go new shape from mix. And as you can see, it'll make a random numbered key all the way down here. So what we want to do next is go back up here and turn both of these off. Put them back to 0. 1 is on, 0 is off, binary. And then we can go all the way down here. And if you turn this one all the way up, boom, we have a new shape key. We're going to rename this to happy. And then if you don't like this way down here at the bottom, I particularly do not, you can actually use this little arrow key right here and rapid click it all the way up into the list wherever you so feel it belongs. I'm going to put it right above sad. Actually, you know what? We'll just put it right up over angry. And then we move on to the next one. Next, I think we'll do joy. So for joy, joy is usually a more extreme version of happy. Usually, if you're using the auto expressions, like when you smile, as you can see, mine pops up too. It usually, if you smile really big, it will usually pop it up. There's a couple ways you can do this, especially if you are using, if you're doing them yourself. But for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to combine the AA, so the mouth opens and a big old smile. Oops, wrong way. And the happy blink. And we will just do the same as before. New shape key from mix. Turn all of these off all the way down. Turn this one on just to make sure it's working. It is. And fat fingered joy. And then I am going to do the same and move this all the way back up here. Just because I prefer it that way. And boom. We have joy, happy, angry is already done for us. And with sad, since this is already here, we're just going to change this one to sorrow. And boom, those are all done. Another thing we need to do is your blinks need to be separated to right and left. As you can see, I don't know if you can see that because I wear glasses, so sometimes it cuts off my tracking. So your eyes need to be able to separately of one another. They need to be able to blink separately of one another. I really need to get a pair of contact lenses for when I'm using facial tracking. But thankfully, once again, this model actually already has the blinks separated. So we have left blink and right blink. Now, this should work. But one of the things I've learned is a lot of the problems that come up when we are exporting from Blender, importing into Unity, is that naming conventions, which is why I changed sad to sorrow and made proper shape keys in the proper names. A lot of times the program is looking for a very specific name. And if we don't have that name, it just doesn't see it as there, and it causes all sorts of problems. So rather than mess around, we are just going to do what I know works and change this to blink.l and blink.r. Boom. They still work. Naming is irrelevant, as you can see. The next thing we need are look directions. Look up, look down, look left, and look right. Now, these are usually not provided in shape keys because most models, especially as far as VRChat is concerned, that is controlled by the eye bones. And yes, I am aware that I just yeeted the iris all the way off to like the left and right. That is something you can do. So that is why these are not typically provided as shape keys. And as I can definitely see, yeah, there is no look left, look up, look down, look right, etc. in here. And that is normal. That's normal. But you need these for when you are creating a VRChat avatar, because that is how the eye tracking works. Whether it is using the 52 blend shapes from the AR kit for iPhone, or if you are using webcam tracking. You have to have the shapes in your shape keys for the Unity part. So how do we make these if we do not have them on shape keys and there is nothing available for us to work with? That is where we get into the pose mode. Remember how I said there is ways to do this with pose mode and directly editing the mesh. For this, I'm going to be using the tool Cats. Cats is incredibly useful for stuff like this. You can do this using the in-program functions. I covered that more in my armature tutorial and in my combining meshes tutorial. I will provide a link to both of them up in the corner up here, most likely. So you can go check them out if you so wish. It also goes over where to find Cats and how to download it. So back to the subject at hand, we are going to create these particular shape keys using pose mode. So first thing is first, we're going to do the lookup. Why? Just because that is the one I choose. Ooh. So it's a little fiddly when you're using the mouse sometimes. And this also is to taste. You have to decide how far up you want the avatar to look. It is really up to you. Some people like to go only that high. Some people like to go way high. I tried to do a somewhere in between the two because I found if you don't go far enough up or down, there's also the down situation where if you don't go far enough down when you're looking down or up, it doesn't look natural when the avatar is looking around. Same way with left and right. If you don't get it right, it doesn't, like if I turn my head and I'm looking directly at the camera, it doesn't look like I'm actually looking at you. It looks like I'm still looking in that direction. So just kind of fiddle with it, look around, move the avatar around, see if it looks right. If you were watching this on stream or in a video, does it look like they are actually looking in the direction they're supposed to be looking? That looks pretty good. So what do we do from here? Well, for those of you observant, might already be ahead of me, pose to shape key, boom. And then we give it a name, in this case, look up. And once again, you notice there's a naming convention where I have capital L, lowercase OOK, and then the capital U, lowercase p, combined together, looks like one word. Unity looks for this name. So if you have it named this 9 times out of 10, not going to have a problem. Pose successful, you'll see down here. Then we can stop pose mode, go to body. I always like to just double and triple check my work. It's right here. Boom, working. And once again, if you don't like it all the way down here, which I do not, we're going to move it up into the rest of our shape keys. Oh, there we go. We're going to drop it right below Sorrow. So I'm going to quickly do this for the down, left, and right, and then show you the end results, since you get the idea of how this is meant to work. I will be back with you once I am all finished. All right, there is something I want to touch base on. I just thought about it while I was doing this, and I feel like it's something to mention. So when you're doing your left and right look, especially when you have an avatar that has the really big like irises like this and similar to my own, when you're looking in a direction, you're going to notice that certain eyes are going to move more than others. For instance, so I'm doing the look right. So the right eye, or right iris, I should say, here, is going to move the furthest. I'm going to try and get this to look, like I said, a little fiddly sometimes, but that looks pretty good. Now, you could leave the left eye as it is, but you notice when you're looking from the front, our character doesn't necessarily look like they're looking all the way to the right. So I found that moving the left eye subtly, like about roughly like that. Now, from all angles, the character does, except for maybe the left side, but from the front and the right, the character does actually look like they're, and from a 3/4 perspective, the character does look like they're looking to the right. That's just a little pro tip for you. Actually check your perspective. See if it does look realistic. You could go further on the left side, but then you're just going to get to a slightly like unrealistic categories because the eye doesn't technically go, once again, if you look this way, if I can face the camera and actually look, there we go. The eye doesn't actually go that far to one side or the other. Anyway, then we save this pose and I will be right back and you get to see the final product. All right, we're back again. So let's take a look at the blend shape so you can get an idea of how they'll look when they are done. So here's look up, look down, look left, and the one we were talking about, look right. As you can see, the look left and look right, the opposite eye has a much more subtle movement to give you a more realistic idea of how it will actually work. All right, we should be set. Should be able to easily export this as an FBX. So again, there's a couple ways to do this. You can go to File, Export, or you can use the export model from CATS. The choice is yours. I'm going to use the File, Export, FBX. I've always found that one to be the most functional. Now, within this folder, there is already an FBX file. This is the original FBX file that the client sent me. I do not want to overwrite that, so I'm going to save it as a Jinxed box edit. Either way, save it somewhere where you'll be able to find it, preferably with the folder that contains its textures. Give it a moment to process. Mine is all done. Save my work. And now we are ready for the Unity part. So I will be right back with you when we have Unity loaded up. All right, we are back over here in Unity. Now, real quick, I want to preface this. Different VTubing software often uses different versions of Unity in order to function. For instance, VCFace uses a version of Unity 2019. And if you export your model out of anything other than the proper version of Unity, you're going to run into all kinds of problems. Since we are working in VNyan for the customer, we are going to be using a version of Unity that is 2022.3.44 F1, which is the current version that VNyan supports. Make sure you use whatever version of Unity that your software supports. You can always find that information by asking their Discord or on their webpage. You can also own multiple versions of Unity. Unity is free for the most part, so feel free to download as many versions as you need and switch between them accordingly. However, before we get started here in Unity, there is one more thing we need. we are going to need a version of UniVRM, which is available here from the releases page. I will put this link in the description of the video, of course. We also want to get VRM 0.x because for some reason VRM 1.0 doesn't work in a lot of different programs. You can just grab whatever one is the newest one, which in this case is 0.131.0, and we are going to go from there. Another SDK we're going to need for this project for the client is going to be the Vtubing SDK. You will need your own SDK depending upon which VTuber software you are using. I am not going to get into all the different types and what you will need and their compatibilities. I will leave that to you for your research. However, if you are interested in using Vtubing and uploading different avatars and making it work, I will provide a link to Suvi's site for Vtubing. And if you are really interested in getting more into it or have questions, I would suggest you join her Discord. There are a lot of very useful people, including myself there, that are always willing to help and work with you. Now, it is important to note that if you are using Vtubing, you will not need to install UniVRM first. Suvi has it all packaged in with her SDK. If you install UniVRM and then also install the Vtubing package, you're going to run into errors and have to redo everything. Just a heads up for anyone that does want to use Vtubing, just install Suvi's SDK. All right, from here, we need to import our FBX file. Now, there's a very easy way to do this. You just want to open the folder where your FBX file is stored. And then we are going to drag that FBX file, which is going to be this one, the edited one. And we're just going to drop it directly into the asset folder in the project window. And that will pop up right here. Now, there are a couple things we need to do to get our avatar set up to work. Number one is we have to go over here to the inspector. And you will notice we have model, rig, animation, and materials. It doesn't really matter where you start here on this, but we'll just start from left to right with model. And we want to slide down all the way down here and make sure legacy blend shape normals is ticked on. And then we want to go for not angle weighted, area weighted. Everything else you can leave as is and press apply. Next, we want to touch base on rig. Right now it is marked as generic. This is used for objects that are not going to be humanoid in nature, or if you're using a humanoid object, but it isn't going to be rigged for motion detection or anything. We want humanoid. And once we click humanoid, we want to click apply. Now, we're not done here yet. We have to make sure all our bones are functional. So to do that, we need to go to configure, which will pop open this, and we will get on to this. First things first, the body. As we can see, we're already missing the chest bone. Now, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can drag the bones from over here into place, or you can actually search for these bones in the instance of, say, the head. So right here, first and foremost, the jawbone. That is not the jawbone. This model does not have a jawbone. So it snuck another bone in there. So what we got to do is just type in none. If I can type. There we go. And you can just click it and boom. And it looks like the hands did not get all the bones. So I am going to really quickly take care of this. And right now, right here, we see where I said about naming conventions and Unity not understanding what you're trying to do. For the thumb, we have thumb distal, right? That one is missing. But there is a thumb on the left hand. There is a third thumb digit on the left hand side, but it's thumb 1_L_end, which is the bone it's looking for. Now, had it been properly named, it probably would have filled it right in. But that's why we have to look at this, because different model creators use different naming conventions. I have my own names that I use. Like, I'll typically use thumb like 1, 2, 3 for the digits in my character. This model, as you can see, the thumb isn't quite functioning. I messed up a bone placement and it's all over the place, so I have to fix that. But this is why naming convention is so important when you're working on a model, especially for this. Just make sure you get the right name. Make sure it is, in fact, L for the left hand and R for right hand. Because if you mess it up, the whole rig will wonk out. Now, here's another perfect example of changing names that you and I understand, but the program has no idea. So the model creator named the little finger, the pinky, which a lot of us call the little finger the pinky. But Unity is looking for little. There is no little in here named, so we have to search for pinky. And as you can see, there is in fact a distal node for the pinky. And then we repeat the process for the right hand. Now, once you have everything in place, do a quick double check. Make sure all your R's are R's and all your L's are L's. Everything is properly lined up on your skeleton. You can even click on these bones in the skeleton. And over here on the left-hand side, you can see the names as you click. Once everything is in place, you've removed excess bones where there is no bone or a bone we don't want to use, like upper chest. Sometimes models have upper chest bones, sometimes they don't. We don't really use it in VTubing for the most part, so we are just going to leave that blank. Hit first apply, make sure there's no red errors, no issues, and then press done. Now, animation tab, unless you have animations attached to your avatar, this should not matter. Materials. Now, there is a thing you can do with this. You can actually extract your materials. I have found that instead we can do something a little different. What I'm going to first do is I'm going to take our avatar, now that we've done all of this, and we're going to click on our avatar, and we are just going to slide them up here into the hierarchy. And they should pop up directly in the center. We want our avatar to be centered. So our position is 0 on the XYZ, our rotation is 0 on the XYZ, and our scale should be 1 across the board. That way it is perfectly centered. Now, the next thing we are going to do is just drag our avatar's textures right into the folder, the asset folder in the project window. And it's going to take a moment to load. There we go. It has applied the textures for us. As we can see, we have a folder right here. Very handy dandy, very useful, very clean. What I like to do is create another folder for our materials. So we just right click directly in the project window, go up to create folder. And we'll name our folder materials. And then the way we get our materials is from the material menu And as long as when you exported everything, all of your textures and materials were correct, you should just be able to extract these. I am going to add these into my material folder that I created. Double click it to open it, hit select folder. Everything pops up and it should have applied those materials. Good, it did. Sometimes Unity acts a little weird. If the case is that it did not apply the materials or the textures, you can always go directly in here and grab your materials. And you can either drag and drop them onto the model, or you can open up the model object, the game object, it is technically called in Unity, with the drop-down arrow. And you can mouse over. This is a hierarchy almost identical to that of Blender. So for body, down here, you will notice it will have a mesh name. And you should also have your blend shapes up here. It is very important to note, if you do not have your blend shapes marked over here, there was a problem in your export from Blender and you need to fix that. It looks like in this case, it has applied all the materials for us. Again, if it does not, there are a couple ways you can fix that. You can, like I said, drag and drop them, or you can go back down here, click on your model down here in the project window and go over to materials, and you can literally drag your materials directly over onto it. As you can see, it works. There are many ways that you can do this, but we have everything we need now. This model is set and ready to be converted into a VRM. Now, Suvi has provided us with a means to do this. However, I would not suggest using this because it doesn't do what we really need it to do. And when you export it into the VTubing software, VNyan included, it's not going to work the way you think it is. So she has set us up where we just go over here to the VNyan SDK, go over to avatar setup tool, and then drag this in. And you can click, see how it says the meta component is missing. And if you hit fix issue, it will add the meta component. And the blend shape proxy component is missing. Sorry. You hit fix issue, and it will add the blend shape avatar component. And then if you just hit rescan, it will say everything is available. And then most people would just click export avatar. However, there is a problem with this. If we open up our blend shapes, if we just go over here to where it says blend shape avatar and click on that, you will notice there's nothing there because this was not properly exported as a VRM format, then re-imported. That is the #1 way to make this work. Unfortunately, this will not work the way that the VNyan SDK wants it to. So I'm going to delete our FBX and re-add it. Thankfully, there is nothing that, those are just scripts that are added to the model. You can just delete this and re-pull this up here and everything will work just fine. So what we want to do next, let me clear my console. Yes, I know there was missing stuff from the prefab. I know. What we want to do next is we want to make sure our character is highlighted. We're going to go down here and we are going to create another folder. This folder is going to be named VRM base. We are going to need this folder to keep things organized. All right, let's go back up, make sure our character is selected in the hierarchy, and we're going to go to the VRM0. Going to click it, and we're going to click Export VRM. Now, what this is going to do is bring up this little window right here. Title is basically what is the name of the model. We're just going to name it King's Fox. The version of this is going to be 1. And author, that's going to be me because I'm the one working on it. So down here, there's going to be something like acts of violence. Do you want to allow or disallow? Person can perform with this avatar, only author, explicitly licensed person, everyone. I have never really seen this that relevant unless you're uploading it to something like the VRoid marketplace and such. It's really up to you what you want to do with this. I'm just going to mark explicitly licensed person since this is for a client. And then more importantly, up here, we want to go to export settings. Make sure that this right here is ticked on, pose freeze, because this is going to fix a lot of problems that can crop up when you try to use this in VTubing software. For some reason, if this is not ticked and you export the VRM, once you finish working on it, you're going to have a heck ton of problems with it. It's just not going to work right in the software. So making sure this is ticked on. And you notice there's no blend shape proxy in here. And that is because that doesn't work at first. This is going to fix a lot of problems that the VRM format causes if you try to just import a VRM from like Blender, or if you just try to directly work on any type of VRM or FBX. More importantly, the thing to note is we want to export this as a VRM. You see, I already did this once through testing, making sure things are working. So I'm just going to overwrite that file, give it a moment. And once it is done, now what we want to do is we can turn off that version of the model. We want to go back up to VRM0 and click import. And we are going to import this model. And this is where we want to go into our VRM base folder right down here and hit save. Give it a moment to process. Once it is all done, we want to open up the VRM base. And as we can see, we have another copy of our model. This is the version we're going to work on. So we're going to drag that up into our hierarchy. And here is where we're going to have a lot of problems fixed that we would have had before. Number one of which being, if we slide all the way down here to where it says the blend shape avatar, all of a sudden, this field is now populated with all the blend shapes that we need to make things work. This is the best way to get your avatar working, especially if you're using an FBX file or VRChat avatar, which is why we took it into Blender first to make sure certain shape keys were there. But before we start working on that, one of the things we want to do, because as we're looking at our model right now, it's kind of bland and almost desaturated. And that is because our materials are standard materials. You can use these in many programs that support VRM models. However, I'm going to swap a lot of these over to the MToon format, where, as you can see, it kind of brightens it up a little bit. Now, you might get some wonkiness with the fur. As you can see, it feels kind of washed out, but that also depends upon where your lighting is coming from. It is up to you which you prefer. Most people prefer the MToon format or the Poyomi shader format. I do have Poyomi shaders, but I'm going to use the VRM MToon shaders for this project. If you are interested in the Poyomi shaders and how they work, I can do a full tutorial on how to make them work, where to get them, etc. Plus, having VRM format shaders for when you export this is very important, because VRM shaders work with the VRM format, and if a program is looking for the VRM format, it's probably also looking for the VRM shaders. Custom shaders might not work, and it will look weird. Neither here nor there, that is your choice. Experiment, but for the sake of this tutorial, we are going to use the VRM Tune shaders because I know they work. Now, our next bit of business is going to be the blend shapes. These are what allow the program to track your facial motion, your facial animations, your emotions, etc. It's also what allows it to track your eyes. Because if it doesn't track your eyes, then your avatar just looks like they're staring into the void. Even though many of us are VTubers, that's probably more accurate than you think. Now, this is where you finally get to be a little bit creative outside of when you were first either making or customizing your avatar. Neutral, we want to kind of leave that as is, because this is the neutral state. This is the state that your avatar is always going to be in when you start up. As for A, now, when we click on A, you notice nothing changed, nothing happened. That is because down in here, in our blend shapes, this is where we start to make this work. Now, you can mix and match and mess with this all you like. Like, you can, if you want to add like a little bit of this and a little bit of that for your words, you can. Like, this is really up to you. You just got to make sure what works and what doesn't break your model. But for the sake of the tutorial, I am just going to use the base blend shapes. So for instance, A is just going to be AA, like this. I is going to just be the CH. And that is another thing, when you are using a VRChat avatar and turning them into a VTubing avatar, one of the things you need to know is what shape keys are what. A is usually always A, O is usually always O, but I is often the CH. And there's also these ones, which are the VRC specific ones. As I said, pick and choose which one works best for you and the way you speak. These are your vowels, basically, A, I, U, E, O. So if you have to pull up a mirror and kind of make the vowel sound over and over again, watch how your mouth moves and what it looks like when you're making the vowel sounds, and just go from there. And as I said, don't be afraid to mix and match. Whatever works. Just make sure you're very careful, because even though this looks fine as it is, when you are talking, you do tend to roll your words together. You make your sounds happen at a very rapid pace. And sometimes if you have too many blend shapes going off all at once, it will actually distort the mouth of the avatar and cause it to break and look weird and unnatural and sometimes horrifying. So experiment at your own risk. Then we're going to do you. I'm not going to make you sit here and watch this whole thing. I'm going to zip through this very quickly, and then I will show you the end result.
A few minutes later.
All right, so vowels are done. And as we can see, we have A, I, U, E, O. All done, all working. Next is our blinks and our emotes. You notice joy, anger, sorrow. fun. These are look up, look down, look left, look right, blink left and blink right are all the ones we made in Blender. So blink, self-explanatory. We just go down here and find our blink shape key. Notice once we click on and off of it, it is fine. Joy, we have a joy already done. Anger, our angry. He's an angry boy. Such an angry boy. Sorrow, oh sad. Then fun. Fun can be any number of things. A lot of people turn it into a blep. Especially for furry avatars, blep is usually their fun. Look up, we created earlier. Going to adjust the sad, even though I know I just said to not fiddle faddle too much, I am going to do so anyway because I think that looks better. Do as I say, not as I do, as your parents have probably told you countless times. Same with Angie. Going to add the frowny in there. There we go. But anyway, look up, look down. This is why we made these earlier. We absolutely need these. As we can see, they look incredibly nice. Even though in the blend file, we did not have the pupils in place, we do here. Look left. Looks very natural. And if you feel like something isn't enough, you don't have to turn it all the way up to 100. Like if you like it better there, you can adjust accordingly. This does not have to be at 100. I am just using 100 because I know how these work. And this is a fairly well built avatar. I did not save my look left like a dummy. Sometimes I get to talking and forget what I was even doing. Blink L is basically also another self-explanatory. Blink.L. Blink right. There it is. All right. So from there, we have, as you can see, we have pretty much everything done that we needed. A, I, U, E, O, blink, joy, angy, sorrow, fun, look up, look down, look left, look right, blink left, and blink right. Everything is in place as it needs to be. Now, I'm going to add this step just in case you're like, well, those are nice and all, but there are some other really cool like facial expressions in there that I really wish I had as a blend shape on my model or had a way to trigger. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. One, if you were using the AR kit as I am with my model, and you have a proper smartphone, iPhone, and I believe it's iPhone 10, 13 or higher, you can use the 52 blend shapes. You would add those in during the blender step, at least with this model. If you're using a Vroid avatar, there is a program called HANA Tool that you can use inside Unity to just attach them directly to the face. You just have to remember to do it before you put it into Blender, because for some reason Blender changes the face mesh as soon as you load the model into it. I don't know why it does that, but neither here nor there. If you want more information on the AR kits, the 52 blend shapes, I will make a completely other tutorial covering that. For now, I am just going to show you how to make use of the create blend shapes tool here in Unity, where you can also use this if you already have your 52 blend shapes already attached to the face mesh of the avatar. So all we do is we go to create a blend shape. So for this one, we're just going to name it Smug, because that was one of the blend shapes that was already in there. And then we're going to click on it and we're going to go down here. And once again, we can do all kinds of stuff. See, we have the star eyes. We have heart eyes. We have a bunch of cute things we can do. Once again, for the sake of argument, we are just going to add in smug and maybe a little bit of a grin. He's so smug. He's so friggin' smug. And there you go. And now we have created another blend shape. All right, there's a couple things we would do next before we export for use in something like VNyan. Number one is you want to adjust your first person offset, which is this right here. This right here, these arrows is your first person offset. You want to adjust this so it's more or less right in the center of your face, between your eyes. To get this right, you want to try and be as close to center as possible. And then I tend to go and look from the side and just set it about right there, right between the eyes. That's a little high, at least for this avatar, because it is a anthropomorphic critter. So maybe about right there. That looks right. This way, when the program is picking up your gaze, it actually looks like you're looking toward the audience and not somewhere else. And certain other programs require your first person offset to be as close to the head as possible. So especially if you end up using the character for like an FPS game or something, that fixes all that as close to where the eyes would be on the body. Number two, you notice we have VRM look at bone applier script. What this does is when the VRM program is using the eye tracking, it is going to use the bones. This kind of works. It works okay. And a lot of programs have this actually toggled off by default and are using your eye blend shapes anyway. So we are just going to remove this component. Normally, you would also just deactivate your eye bones and just use the blend shapes. I tend to leave the eye bones on because certain clients and creators like to have their eye bones active for different reasons. Either way, I leave the eye bones active, but I do turn this off. Again, it's just script. We can re-add it back in if you prefer, but from my experience using the blend shapes, this is what I'm using with this avatar, just works better. So, but we do need something so that the program knows what to look for. So instead, we're going to click Add a Component. My Unity is thinking. And we're going to go to VRM, look at Blend Shape Applier. Boom. You don't have to, you can look at these different little drop downs. We don't need any of these unless you really know what you're doing and know how to adjust these curves. Don't touch them. Don't touch anything. Don't tick anything off. Just leave it as is for now, unless you absolutely know what you're doing. But chances are, if you absolutely know what you're doing, you're not watching this tutorial. So the next thing that most people would do at this point, besides saving their project, just in case, because Unity is renowned for breaking. So you want to hit save, and then you want to hit save project. I tend to hit save project like 3 times because sometimes Unity does not actually save the project. Next thing that most people would do would be their physics, which is how we get our, well, tickle physics, how we get hair movement. And the one that everybody loves is down in here. The booba physics. That is a whole other tutorial in and of itself. I'm not going to get into that in this tutorial. If you want to know how to add physics to your avatar for your hair, your ears, your booba, I will absolutely do a tutorial on that for everyone, and that'll be its own thing. But for now, we're going to skip that and move right into exporting this. So first things first, we are going to delete this. That was our original FBX. I am deleting it just because it saves on space. We're also going to delete this camera and this lighting just because it will cut down on your file size and load time of your avatar. And then we want to be clicked on our main file, our main game asset. And we are going to go to the VNyan SDK, avatar, and export VNyan avatar. And then once again, we are going to save it to a location that we will remember. For this one, I'm going to save it directly into the folder where I have everything stored that I am working on for the client. Give Unity a moment to process. Export complete. Now, if we did everything correctly, it should work. So we're going to see if it worked. I'll be right back in a new skin. All right, here we are, and it is working. Also, this is using the camera. This is using a webcam. I also have this set up so that it uses the microphone to lip sync to me. You're just going to have to fiddle with your sensitivity in the eyes and also adjust where your cameras are. Overall, it's cute, it's working. If you need more information on how to make adjustments to the eyes and body, then Suvi has all kinds of information on that within her Discord and on her different websites. So go check it out. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye now. Bye.